Hello everyone, this is Gail. Welcome to my Tupelo Designs project for this week. I want to start off by saying I feel really dumb. I have recorded this part of the video once before and thought I had saved it on my computer and cleared the memory card, and then I went back to get it and it was saved on my computer, but it was what it ended up being was a link to my memory card, and since the video was no longer there, I couldn't use it. So the only part of the video that I have left is the second half, which is when it comes out, the beads come out of the oven. So I'm going to have to recreate what I did in the first half of the video, and I apologize for that because I made 16 beads in the last video, so I used a lot more clay, and I'm not going to be doing that today. I'm going to make a smaller amount, but I'm going to give you the proportions that I used when I did the video. So what I ended up doing was I have some Primo bronze, and this is one block sliced off of the, on your Primo, it's divided into little squares. And I sliced one total block off of it, and then I cut that in half because I'm going to add black to half of it. And then we have the bronze. And then I have the 18 karat gold. Again, it's one block that I cut in half. And I cut that in half. And I'm going to add yellow to that. As you can see, I'm making some graduated colors, and rather than have to mix the antique gold with, the 18 karat gold with black to make a darker gold, all I have to do is use the antique gold. So all of this is Primo. This is zinc yellow, 18 karat gold, antique gold, bronze, and black. And all of these are available at TupeloDesignsLLC.com. So I'm going to start mixing. I'm going to use my pasta machine. I was doing it by hand. Well, maybe I still will. I'll just cut them into small pieces. I don't know how much black I'm going to need to make this darker, so I'm just going to start with a little bit. And I'm going to knead this by hand. I'm going to try to do this video for people that don't have all of the fancy clay equipment. Maybe you don't have a pasta machine. That's what I've gotten used to using, and this is going to be a challenge to blend all this clay without a pasta machine. But it can be done. You just kind of, soften it up a little bit, roll it into a snake, fold it in half, twist it, and then again, roll it. And I'm doing more clay than I said I was going to do. I wasn't going to do all of it. But I may as well. Why not? See, this, if you want a marble clay, this is how you marble clay. But it's gotten softer now. So now I can roll it into a log again. Or a snake, whatever you want to call it. Fold it and twist it. And eventually this black will get blended in with the bronze. And it shouldn't take too awful long. If it does, I'll go off camera and blend it. But I feel so silly about deleting that first part of my video because it was a pretty good video, I thought. Anyway, just keep twisting and turning. Blending color is probably the most time-consuming thing if you're doing it by hand, because it takes a lot of time to get the colors blended. It doesn't take a lot of time to marble them. Matter of fact, this is a pretty marble right now. If you want to see that, that in itself would make a pretty bead. But what I'm shooting for is a darker color of bronze. Just keep squeezing and turning and twisting and do whatever you need to do to get those colors blended. This will also give you an idea of how much time it takes. If I'd used the pasta machine, it would have been done a while ago. This is taking a long time, but it's, I don't know, just think about the arm muscles you're strengthening. But a lot of you have issues with your hands, and I understand that because I'm going to probably be very sore when I finish this, because I was the last time. But I think that's going to be dark enough. And I just want to slice these into smaller pieces. Actually, I'm only going to use half, and I should have only done half here, because like I said, I don't want to turn around and make another 16 beads. Now these beads are about a ½ inch in diameter when you finish. And so you have to think about, like my 16 beads, the measurement is very close to 8 inches. It's not exactly a ½ inch. Some of them are a little bit different than others, and some of them, some of them are larger, some of them are smaller, but they average about a ½ inch a piece. So if you follow this in this tutorial and you want to make, say, a 10-inch bracelet for your husband, then by all means, remember that you need to make 20 beads, so you'll need to use a little bit more clay than the proportions I told you. Let's make sure there is really not much difference between these two. I think I'm going to add the rest of this black, or just on half of it I'll just add a little, because I really want this to be darker. But I'm going to just make a smaller bead. I may turn it into a pendant rather than to a round bead, but I'll show you how to do the round beads. But I'm back to adding more black. So this is going to take a little while to blend it. At least the clay is a little bit softer now. It won't take quite as long because I'm not starting from scratch. And if you don't want to watch all this, feel free to fast forward. I understand this can be boring to you if you've done this before. Matter of fact, I may even fast forward the video. If I can figure out how to do that. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. But that's definitely darker now. And the antique gold will do the same. I've only got a half a block out here, so because I used the other half, so I will. And I'm just cutting it into smaller pieces because it's easier to smush the smaller pieces together. Doesn't really matter. You can do it any way you want. Another good thing about doing this by hand is we want to roll these into snakes, and it's really not important that you condition this totally. The only things you really need to worry about is the ones where you're getting the colors blended, because we're going to be doing a lot of smushing. And let me just cut this in half since I'm doing halves now. We'll be doing a lot of smushing and squeezing, and matter of fact, this here is what's left over from the last one that I did, the last video, because I only used one of those, so I saved it so I don't even have to mix this. I just wanted to show you what I did. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roll all of these into a log. And like I said, they don't have to be totally conditioned because we're going to be doing a lot with them. And roll this into a log. Actually, this one needs to be a little bit longer. I think I'm going to end up with just as much clay as I did before. Maybe not enough for 16. But it's going to be a lot. More than you would think. But you notice I'm going to line them up according to the color. Dark to light. It doesn't matter if they're not the same. See, this one's not really round, and it doesn't really matter, and you'll see in a minute. But the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put this there because that's the lightest, is I'm going to cut these in half. Then I'm going to put this over here, this over here, this over here, and this over here. So what we've got is going dark to lighter, to lighter, to lighter, to lightest, to darker, to darker, to darker, to darkest. And then we're going to roll these all up next to each other. Did I tell you this was going to be a tiger's eye bead? I don't think I even mentioned that. I think I did in my first video, but we're going to make a tiger's eye out of this. And let me just get my clay out of the way. And again, I'm going to do this like someone that doesn't have a pasta machine. But I like to scrunch these up a little bit first. And then just take your roller and roll it flat. Now you're going to do this a lot of times, which is going to condition your clay. So that's why you don't have to worry about getting it totally conditioned. The main thing you're doing with your other colors, your lightest and your darkest, is just blending the colors. But I'm going to take that now and I'm going to fold it. And this is not a Skinner blend, but they are going to start kind of blending together. Now let me show you what I want to do here before I roll and fold and roll again. I want to start smushing this in from the side. And yes, smush is a technical term. I believe that's a term that Marla Frankenberg uses quite a bit, is smush. I don't know if y'all know Marla. But go in from each side because you want to make this narrow eventually. You don't have to do it all at one time, but if you keep doing it the other way, it's going to keep getting wider and wider and wider. And you can even fold this in a little bit if you want, just to make it a little bit more even. It doesn't matter if it's straight or not because you want it to blend a little bit, and then fold it and roll. It usually sticks to my tile. I don't know why it's not today. Unless it's because it hasn't been cleaned in a while. Maybe that's it. Anyway, just roll it again, and every time you pick it up to fold it, smush it. Because if you know, if you've ever seen a tiger's eye stone, the yellow in the center is very fine compared to the rest of the colors. So just smush from the side. And just be sure you do the same thing on each side so that your sides are going to be fairly uniform. And you can fold in your, well, this didn't get smushed very well, did it? But you can fold your end in if you want. Before you fold it, you can stretch it a little bit and then fold and then roll. It looks like I'm losing a little bit of my dark there, so I'm just going to fold this over to make sure I don't lose my dark, but try to make the gold. Well, that's gonna, it's got gold in it, so I just need to smush. You don't want to lose the brown on either side. And as you fold, you can incorporate the brown back in it. It's not that difficult. But just keep smushing. See, I'm going to fold that to the inside, and I'm going to offset it a little bit so that this brown picks up. And just roll it again. We're almost there. You just keep doing this until your yellow gold is narrow. And every time you smush it, it should get narrower. Fold that up because it's a little bit too much gold on the edge. We're almost there. So you can look on this side. Don't roll it so thin this time and then smush. It's just a process. You just keep rolling and smushing, and then you can stretch and smush. And stretch some more and smush. Because you're not going to need this to be very wide. Now you need to make sure when you do this that you're making enough of this line to give you the number of beads that you need. But the important part isn't the outside, well, it is the outside, but see, you can roll over it with your roller. This is going to be pretty long. I don't know how many beads we'll get out of this. But the first thing you need to do is to cut off your ends to where it looks like it might be a good stripe. And this one we might, well, that broke, so that kind of answered that question. But that's okay. We'll use this. Don't stretch too hard like I just did, but you want to make this as narrow as you can. The cutter we're going to use, actually I'm going to use two of them. I'm going to use Kemper cutters. And I've got two sizes. I believe this is a 1/2 inch. No, this is 3/4 of an inch. And this one is about 5/8 of an inch. But you're going to want this to be thin. When I say thin, no thicker than the #1 setting on a pasta machine. And you could even run this through a pasta machine if you wanted to make it all the same thickness. Matter of fact, I might do that. I'm going to roll it through on a #1 just to make sure it's all the same thickness. I said I wasn't going to use a pasta machine, but There we go. So what we can do is we can take our scrap clay and make a little ball. And it doesn't matter what this looks like, because this is going to be the base. Although look at that, that makes a pretty neat looking bead too, doesn't it? So then I'm going to take, let's see how this is going to work. I think I'll take the small one and cut 2 circles, kind of close to each other so that they have the same markings on it. Then I'm going to just cut that off where the circles are. And this will be more scrap you can use for your beads. And then take half of it and stretch it onto your ball. Roll up the tops, roll down the sides. And I don't think that's going to cover half of the bead. The first bead is always sort of a test. So I'm going to make the other one, this other bead, I'm going to use the 3/4 of an inch bead to see if I can cover all of this. But anyway, match up your yellow. Let me come up just a little bit. But match up your yellow line and then stretch it all the way across to where it meets. This is going to take some stretching because I didn't cut the other one the right size. It depends, with the size cutter you use, all depends on the size you make your little bead, your little ball that you're going to cover. Now it's good to cover the gold. And I've got some gold showing up there, so I'm just going to take a toothpick and push it down and cover it up, pull the brown up over it. Try to straighten up my yellow. Yeah, this is a little bit bigger ball than I normally make. That's why the cutter didn't cover it. So this one ended up a little wonky, but it's usable. It's usable. So let me try a smaller ball this time. The other one was just too big. I apologize. But, you know, you learn with this. The worst that can happen is I could take this and cut it in half and make it into 2 beads. Polymer clay is so forgiving. Now let me see about this one. This is the smaller cutter again. And this looks like it's covering half of the bead, which is what we want. So let me take another one. You're going to need 2 of these little cut circles for each bead. Match up your gold. Don't get too close because you need to round this down a little bit. And pull this gold over to the other one. And then you just fold the ends down until they meet. Now because all of this is a mica clay, even if you make these seams disappear, like if you roll this, because I tell you to roll up, you know, I did in the other video, told you to roll this until those seams disappear. Well, the seams will not disappear because this is mica clay. Mica clay, even though this is now smooth, you're going to see some variations in color just because of the mica shift. But there's your first really nice tiger's eye bead. Just make it round again after I pinched it. You can play with it a little bit, not too much. You don't want to mess it up. but there's a decent one. And I'm going to take this bead that I made before that's just way too big and cut it in half. And I was able to bend that around. Let me see what it looks like after I make it round again. That's not too bad. It's going to be a little bit smaller than the others. But these are stones. I mean, this is not a gem. It's not going to be a shiny, perfect, you know, colored thing. This is an actual stone, and the way it forms in the earth. And this is just, you know, it's very organic, very masculine, I think. But there's another bead, and you just continue doing this. And then there's two ways you can bake this. One is to, let me get everything out of the way. You can take an ordinary index card and fan fold it. And I've already folded this one. But you can fan fold it and then set your beads in it. And this way they won't get that shiny flat piece on them from like baking them on a tile. But the easiest way, and to me the best way, when you have a number of beads, is to use baking soda. And this is a pan that I use for baking that's filled with baking soda, maybe 1/4 inch of baking soda. And you can take your beads and stick them down in the baking soda, and it will keep them round. And yes, the baking soda sticks to it, but that's okay, because if all you need to do when it's after it's baked is to rinse it with water, and I'll show you that in the next video. So hopefully you've seen enough of this. I think maybe as a little, I said I was going to make maybe a pendant. I think I'm going to take just a piece of this, and I'm going to still mush and fold and stretch and mush and fold and stretch and just get it a little bit bigger. I might fold it one more time. And I'm going to lay it on my table. I think what I'm going to try to do is roll this into a teardrop shape. I think that's the best place to stop it. And then press it down. And make a little cabochon. Just shape it how you want it. Now I prefer, you can put holes in your beads and in your pendants. At this point, I like to wait until after they're baked, and that's what I did in this video. But let me just show you this, and I'm sorry it's going to be upside down for you. If I had some, I've got some wide silver wire, but if I had some wide copper wire, I would wrap this in that wide wire. But I don't have any, I don't have any copper wire. All of my wire is a different color. I think at this point I'm not going to put a hole in it, because I may wrap this in wire and use that as my bail after it's baked. So that would be my little pendant. So just to show you, you can do something like this for a woman. And again, this spread out, you can make it, you know, the whole object is when you start out is to keep this as thin as possible. So when you start messing with it, the gold doesn't spread out as much as this did. Another thing to kind of take away the brightness of that gold would be to add a thin sheet of translucent over it. And maybe I'll do that. I've got some translucent, I believe. Yeah. This is the white translucent. Now this I will use my pasta machine for. I'm just going to take a piece of it and run it through my pasta machine. I'm going to do this a couple of times to condition it because it has been sitting for a while. Alright, now I'm going to go down to a number 3, which makes it a little bit thinner. Now a number 5, which will make it even thinner. And number 7, which makes it really nice and thin. But I'm going to go all the way to a number 9, which is the thinnest on my pasta machine. So this is, you can even see my fingers through this. So this is very thin, but I'm even going to stretch it a little bit more because I want this very, very, very thin. And then take it and just lay it over the pendant in whatever shape you made it. And I'm going to use a toothpick to get it down over the edges. Now, I'm not going to have this pendant on my second half of my video because it wasn't made on the second half, but I will try to get a picture of it after it's baked. After it's baked so you can see what it looks like. And I'm just going to smooth these edges a little bit. And pull off any little raggy pieces that are kind of hanging around here. And we'll see what this looks like after it's baked. So these are going to go in the oven. When I come back, it will be the 16 beads that I made on my previous video. And hopefully I'll have a nice picture of this that you can see. So I will see you as soon as these come out of the oven. Thanks. Okay, I'm back. And I'm just about finished with the tiger's eye beads. They're out of the oven. And all we need to do now is to drill a hole and shine them up a bit. So what I'm going to do, I have this, it's called a pen vise. And these are available at, I think this is made by Doris. They're available at just about any craft store. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select where I want to drill. And since I want the eye to go straight across, I will start on one side. And I like to start where the seam is, where the two came together. And I just go in a couple of little turns, just enough to hold it, and then I spin this around to look and make sure it's going straight. Because what might look straight from one direction isn't necessarily straight from another direction. And I'm doing this over a paper towel because there will be shavings. As you can see, as you turn, this is going to drill into the bead, and polymer clay is going to come out. And every once in a while you need to pull this out because clay will get stuck up in these little grooves. But it's easy, just take it out and just put it back in. And I like to put my finger or a thumb at the other end because I don't want this drill to go all the way through. I want it just to go until, alright, I'm beginning to feel it. See that little white spot there? That's where the drill is getting ready to come through the bead. And the reason I don't want to go through is sometimes if your drill goes all the way through, it will tear the other end, the other hole, and make it kind of raggy looking, whereas if you wait and you mark it and go in the other way, see, I just had to break that little bit of surface, but look how much cleaner. See how clean that hole looks? So they both look nice. Let me do it one more time. Find a good side, because sometimes when you do these, it doesn't always turn out well on both sides. And this will spin. That's really not where I wanted that, but I'm kind of stuck now. It will spin a little bit. So this one will just be a little off. I'm going to try to straighten it as much as I can. Let me turn it around. Yep, I can straighten it a little bit. And just twist. Now, if you're using an electric drill, or if you're using a Dremel or something to drill this hole, don't put your finger on the end because it'll go through this clay. Clay is very soft when it's baked, and it will just go right through and into your finger just as sure as anything. So just be sure you don't do this if you're using anything mechanical. This is, alright, I'm beginning to feel it. I don't see the little dot yet. There it is right there. This got hung up because the clay is stuck on the end of the drill. It'll just pull out. Let me push that back in. Then I'll go in on the other side where that little divot is and just go through the surface and clean out that hole. I'll go through both ways now. And clean out your drill, and that's it. I've already done the holes on the others. I wanted to show you. There's no sense in wasting a lot of time watching that happen. So let me do this. Alright, now the only thing left to do is to shine these up. And what I did is I used a piece of felt. And this is a piece of felt that I use on my Dremel tool to make a buffing tool. And when you want a real high shine, that's something good to do. You could sand and buff these. You could put them in a rock tumbler, which would take a couple of days to get them in a rock tumbler. Or you can just shine them up on a piece of denim or a piece of felt. And this might take a while. You know, you want to make sure it's shined well. It's a good thing to do when you're sitting and watching TV, because you can only really do like one little area at a time. And I just usually do it maybe 15, 20 times. And then I take it and I move it a little bit and do it another 15 or 20 times. And just keep turning it. You kind of develop a rhythm after a while. And you kind of know, and you go make sure you get the ends that have the hole in it. Now this doesn't give a shiny shine to it, and I'm thinking that most men probably don't want very shiny. Plus I think when you wear something, it will like absorb the oils from your skin and kind of becomes more of a natural shine, and that's kind of what I'm looking for, looking to happen in these beads. Thought I was done, and then I picked it up and saw one little area that hadn't been buffed. But like I said, it's not real shiny, but you can see the shine on it. It's maybe what I would call a satin shine. And here's the other one. All the others I've already done. I did those the other night, or not the other night, I did it last night watching TV. I'm going to go to a new place on the felt because sometimes the felt starts to wear. And I don't want it to mess up anything on your bead. Now just be careful that you don't shine in the same place for too long, because rubbing on this felt is going to cause friction, and friction generates heat, and if you generate heat, it's going to soften the clay and you're going to lose your shine. So it's better to shine it a little bit and then move on, and then maybe go over it again a little bit later, you know, after you've polished somewhere else, than it would be to polish the whole thing for a long time. Just buff and turn and buff and turn. And you can concentrate your shine on the middle if you want, or on the yellow, which is kind of where you want the shine to be. And I think that's all I'm going to do. To be perfectly honest, I'm tired of buffing. You know, you get to the end and that last one, it's so hard to be patient and to finish shining it the way you want, you know, the others are shiny. But I think that's fine. So I'm going to put my felt away until the next time I need it. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this Doris stretchy cord. And again, I have had this for a long time. And I'm assuming, I didn't measure these beads. I don't know how big a bracelet this is going to be. But anytime you use stretchy cord in making a necklace or a bracelet or anything, always stretch it out really good before you put it on your jewelry. Because there's like a natural stretch to these cords. And if you wait and don't do this when you get started, and my phone is ringing, then once you start wearing it, it's going to get into that natural stretch. So I'm going to just string these beads. I'm going to leave this attached to the end because I'm not sure where I'm going to end up with, you know, how much I'm going to need. And I'm not going to put any beads between these. Again, thinking masculine, I don't think that men really want a lot of shiny beads in between their stone beads, and this is supposed to look like stone. Actually, that's got a really nice hole in it. I think I'm going to save that one for last, and I'll show you why. But I'm just going to string all of these on. And there's going to be lines. See, like here, there's some lines in it. And that's okay, because these are stones. These are not like glass gems. These are stones. Like a, a rock that you would find in the mountains, or I'm not sure where tiger's eyes are found. Maybe in the Middle East, since you see a lot of them in Middle Eastern culture. And then let me put this one on. See, this one has a little bit bigger hole on this side than it does on this side, so I'm going to put it so that the bigger hole is the last one. Now I know how much of this that I need, so I'm going to cut. Okay, now I've left about 2 inches on each end, and I'm just going to tie a square knot. That was right over left. Pull this pretty tight, and then I said that right over left, so this has got to be left over right. And pull this knot really, really tight. And I'm going to leave it for right this minute, because what I'm going to do is going to take a little bit of super glue, and this is a super glue gel that I use. And I'm going to somehow, there we go, put it right on that knot. And I'm going to take a toothpick and make sure it gets all around on that knot. And give it a minute to dry. And try to keep your beads away from it till the glue dries, otherwise it'll just stick to your bead and then you won't be able to finish this the way it needs to be finished. But it doesn't take but just a little bit for that to. And then I'm going to cut this, maybe leave 1/4 of an inch of string. And the reason I chose that large hole is now I'm going to pull that knot into that bead. And actually I can cut off a little bit more of those ends, but now the knot is inside the bead, so the knot will not show, and there is your finished tiger's eye bracelet for your husband, your boyfriend, for whoever. So join me again in my next video. I have a couple of videos now on men's jewelry, so now I'll switch back to something for ladies. But I just wanted to show you that it is possible to make polymer clay things for your husband or for your boyfriend. Just make sure. I didn't measure this before I started, and I probably should have made it a little bit bigger. I don't know if your husband has a big wrist. You might want to make sure that you make enough of a blend that you'll be able to have a really long piece to cut your circles from. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate every one of you, and I will be back soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.